Today I'm looking at Manhunter, the Deluxe Edition hardcover by Archie Goodwin and Walt Simonson. This is one I've been wanting for a long time. I actually didn't know it existed. I didn't know there was a collection of it, but I was aware of this for so long, and then I found it on In Stock Trades, and I grabbed it up. Unfortunately, it seems to be out of print now. I can't get it to come up on IST or Cheap Graphic Novels or any of my other go-tos. Even Amazon doesn't have it, except from the usual scalpers that want like $80 for something that should be $20. It's a $17.99 cover price. When I first got this and was looking at it, I didn't think it was oversized, but comparing it directly to a comic book, in fact, the same comic book, the material in a single, it is slightly oversized. I mean, it's not real big, but it's a little bit bigger. It's 112 pages. I think this came out in 2021, as far as I can tell. And like I said, it does appear to be out of print, but it could be one of the things that's just out of stock. Not sure on that one. So I did a little bit of looking on eBay, but not a lot. Didn't really see anything, but it's probably there too if you want to hunt it up. So the creators on this one, it's Archie Goodwin wrote all of it. I mainly know him as an editor, or I knew him as an editor, an occasional writer. He was one of the main editors and founders, I believe, of the Marvel Epic line in the 80s. And much before that, he was an editor on the War and Black and White magazines. Vampirella, Creepy, Eerie, that kind of thing. And he did that for a long time, and then eventually moved to Marvel and did a lot of stuff for DC and Marvel both. At Marvel, what I remember him from probably more than anything is his great adaptations that they used to do. Like he did the Blade Runner, which was awesome. And he did, I think he might have done the Raiders of the Lost Ark Marvel adaptation. He did a bunch of them up through the 80s, the early 80s mostly. And he was great. Unfortunately, he died in 1998. He was only 60. Not sure what he died of, but we lost one of the greats for sure when he went. This book was actually the last story in the book came out in 1999, so it was a year after he died. And Walt Simonson, the artist on this, the great artist on this, he had been talking about doing a final Manhunter story for this special that DC had proposed for it to be released in '99. And they had talked about it a little bit, and they had done some outlining, just talking to each other. And he had jotted down some notes, but he died before he could actually script it. So, cool thing is, Walt Simonson decided to go ahead and finish it for his dear friend, and this thing that they love together. And he did that. And Louise Simonson, Walt's wife, her idea was, hey, since you don't have a script, why don't you just make this a silent issue? So that's what he did. So the very last story is silent. There's no scripting. It's just some beautiful storytelling. And man, it's high art is what it is. I can't praise it enough. Speaking of high art, Walt Simonson draws the whole thing lovingly and just beautiful, gorgeous work. He inks his own pencils here. And what I didn't realize at the time, I've been a fan of Walt Simonson since the 80s, but really not before that. I know him as, for the most part, for doing what some argue, and I'm among that crowd, of the definitive Thor run. The greatest Thor run in the history of Thor runs, in my opinion, was written and drawn by Walt Simonson in the 80s. He brought us Beta Ray Bill, came right out of that. If you like Beta Ray Bill, you can thank Walt Simonson for that, among a lot of other things. But, yeah, and Klaus Janson colors this entire thing, which is kind of remarkable because, most people probably know Klaus Janson from his great inks he did on Daredevil, where he's inking Frank Miller. He's a great penciler, too, and also a great colorist, because he did, in fact, color this whole thing, and it's nice. And one thing that's a little unusual is the bulk of this book was done in the very early 70s. And then they finished it in 99. But they got the whole crew back for the whole thing again. which is pretty remarkable. And I think it speaks to the love all three of these guys had for this work and this character. You know, but yeah, it's great. So the content here is, it consists of, what it collects is all of the backup stories, which is how this originally came out, that were done in Detective Comics 437 through 443. So this is the early 70s. And then the epic final conclusion of the whole thing they did in 1999 for the Manhunter, the special edition. And it collects all that together, and it has a bunch of extras in the back, lots of sketches, character designs, and some material written by Archie Goodwin before he died, and some stuff by Walt Simonson. It's good. It's just a really good package. I kind of wish it was even larger, you know how I like the big books. But yeah, like I said before, it's slightly oversized. But so Manhunter is sort of he's kind of a cross between like maybe like a Mark Sable freelance type of character, like a spy, but also John Sable, not Mark Sable. But anyway, yeah, so there's a lot of ninja stuff and a lot of shooting and world globe traveling and a conspiracy, the worldwide conspiracy that went on for decades. And it's good. It's really good. It's good stuff. It reminds me a lot of the Frank Miller Wolverine miniseries, you know, because of all the fighting and that sort of thing, and ninjas and that stuff. So it's a little reminiscent of that. And his art here actually seems like a kind of a cross between Neil Adams' Batman and Frank Miller Daredevil Wolverine type of thing. You know, it's good. And I knew this thing existed, but I didn't realize this is kind of what put Walt Simonson on the map. Never knew that until reading this whole thing. It won just a bunch of awards. 1973 Best Writer of the Year, Best Short Story, Outstanding New Talent for Walt. He got that in 73. And then in 74, because it didn't finish all in the 1 year, it got Best Short Story again. It got Best Feature-Length Story. It got Best Writer of the Year for Archie Goodwin. I mean, yeah, this was a big deal. And to think it was just a backup strip in the back of Detective Comics. I mean, Batman does appear in this a little bit, and it's pretty good. And seeing Walt Simonson draw Batman, if you haven't ever seen it before, oh man, it's a treat. So good. And as good as he was in the early 70s, this guy has just gotten better with age. Just better and better and better. And man, and you can see the stark difference too between the bulk of the book from the 70s, and then it goes to the 99. And man, I mean, well, the stuff he did in the 70s was fantastic, like I said, but man, he really tightened it up. I'll run some scans as I always do, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Man, it's just gorgeous. And he inks himself throughout the whole thing. Like I said, Klaus Jansen's doing the coloring, and it's spectacular. Can't say enough good about this thing, man. It's just awesome. This is definitely 10 out of 10 for me. Wouldn't change a thing other than maybe the build of the book. I would make it even larger than it is. I mean, it's so fantastic. If you haven't read this material, do it. I mean, there's just, if you can find it, you know, that, I mean, sometimes with these hardcovers and collections, sometimes it's easier to go find the singles than it is to procure one of these. And it really shouldn't be that way, in my opinion. But, man, it might be that way here. I have not priced Batman 437 through, I think, 443, or rather Detective Comics. I haven't priced that, so I don't know. I don't know what that would cost you to try to get those together. But, I mean, this is a good collection to have. If you can find this little skinny hardcover, do it. Next week, Monday, May 16th, I'll be back with Scurry, the 3 hardcovers, all 3 of them. Here's what those look like. And, yeah, come on back for that. And I'll have little bits and stuff here and there, some hauls and unboxings before that probably. So if you don't want to miss any of that stuff, subscribe and give me a like if you like this. See ya.